It's the 1960s. America is torn by racial hatred and a growing divide between rich and poor. Meet the organizer who helped labor leaders and civil rights leaders join forces for good jobs and just wages.
I am Bayard Rustin. Thank you. I am a labor activist for racial equality, economic justice, and human rights. I'm best remembered as the organizer of the 1963 March on Washington, one of the largest nonviolent protests ever held in the United States. I studied in India and brought home Gandhi's peaceful protest teachings to Martin Luther King and the American Civil Rights Movement. Today, you're struggling with the same issues I sought to change. Our nation is still torn by racial hatred and violence, bigotry against homosexuals, and extraordinary divides between rich and poor. I hope my voice is as relevant for you today as it was in 1950 and 60. Back then, I organized the March on Washington. The date, August 28th, 1963. It was 5:30 in the morning. Marchers were coming to the Capitol to demand good jobs and just wages. With only 4 hours before the meetup, I had my doubts, like every organizer does. Would busloads of people show up? Would our coalition hang together? Would the march remain peaceful? Would Congress meet our demands? We were marching to resolve old grievances and an American crisis. That crisis was born of the twin evils of racism and economic deprivation. They rob all people, black and white, of dignity, self-respect, and freedom. They impose a special burden on people of color who are denied the right to vote, economically exploited, refused access to public accommodations, subjected to inferior education, and relegated to substandard housing. Discrimination in education and apprenticeship training rendered minorities helpless in a mechanized industrial society. They were the first victims of automation. Unemployed people of color were thrown into the streets, driven to despair, to hatred, to crime, and to violence. All America was robbed of their potential contribution. Reactionary Republicans and Southern Democrats in Congress ignored our crisis as they blocked civil rights legislation. They fought against the rights of all workers and minority groups. They were sworn enemies of freedom and justice. They proclaimed states' rights in order to destroy human rights. Remember, the Southern Democrats came to power by disenfranchising black people. They knew that as long as black workers were voteless, exploited, and underpaid, the fight for the white workers for decent wages and working conditions would fail. They knew that semi-slavery for one would mean semi-slavery for all. That day, back in 1963, our march was a historic success, with 300,000 protesters and only 4 arrests. We demonstrated massively and dramatically our opposition to the forces of discrimination. Our bodies demanded jobs and freedom. Labor leaders and civil rights leaders marched shoulder to shoulder as our movements joined forces. If we desire a society in which men are brothers, then we must act towards one another with brotherhood. If we desire a society without discrimination, then we must not discriminate against anyone. We are all one. And if we don't know it, we will learn the hard way. You'll hear historians call me brother outsider. It's true. I was silenced, threatened, arrested, beaten, imprisoned, and fired from important leadership positions, largely because I was an openly gay man in a fiercely homophobic era. When an individual is protesting society's refusal to acknowledge his dignity as a human being, his very act of protest confers dignity on him. As a gay black ex-communist, I earned my dignity the hard way. LGBT folks are beginning to realize what blacks learned a long time ago. Unless you are out here fighting for yourself, then nobody else will help you. I think the LGBT community has a moral obligation to continue the fight. The question of social change should be framed with the most vulnerable group in mind: gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgender people. To be afraid is to behave as if the truth were not true. Be yourself, be brave, and be angelic troublemakers. The only weapon we have is our bodies. And if we need to tuck them in places so wheels don't turn us against each other, if we stand together, change will come.
I was born by the river in a little tent, and oh, just like the river I've been running ever since. It's been a long, long, long time coming, but I know a change gon' come. Oh, yes, it will. It's been too hard living, and I'm afraid to die, 'cause I don't know what's up there beyond the sky. It's been a long, 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 long time coming, but I know a change gon' come. Oh, yes, it will. Then I go to my brother, ooh, and I say, brother, help me, please. But he winds up knocking me back down on my knees. Oh, there were times when I thought I couldn't last for long, but now I think I am able to carry on. It's been a long, a long time coming, but I know a change gon' come. Ooh, I said it's been a long, long time coming, but I know a change gon' come. Oh, yeah, yeah. It's been a long, a long time coming, but I know a change gon' come. Oh, yes, it will.